What are we doing?
We can share it like halfway and be like we're Mick Jagger and Keith Richards like, yeah, man,
it's gonna be awesome. All right.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us. And guess what? We are kicking off season 9 of the Occasional Podcast, and we have just a cornucopia of part-time audiophile writers here with us. Always regular on the show, Marc Phillips. Thanks for joining us.
hey man,
Hey man.
hey man.
I'm
in Florida.
He's the professor, and then we have a PTA self-appointed professor, the PTA founder, lover of all things wonderful, Scot Hull, the sinister minister. How are you?
Good afternoon. I am fine.
And we have a new guy I'd like to introduce you to, Matthew Partrik. We just call him the Doc.
How's it going?
Hey! And we've all had the pleasure of checking out the Florida Audio Expo all weekend long, enjoying the sights and sounds, and it's been great. The thing I like about these shows, and you may have heard this before in other ones, is that with this size and this awesome crew, we're kind of able to hear everything. And that's not something you can say for a show that's like the size of Expona or really large shows. We get in every room, we get to hear every sound. And I think we have a really great collective hive mind Borg consciousness operating right now. That's for you, Scott. Star Trek reference. Where we kind of got a good grasp of what happened this weekend outside of all the drinking and debauchery. So after 10, it's a fucking complete blank in my mind. But between the hours of 9 and 5:30, I have a very crisp idea.
It's very different. Exactly.
Yeah, it's very different.
Very different.
Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by INNUOS. INNUOS engineers innovative, artful, hi-fi products that deliver unexpected warmth and accuracy. Products that unleash the full potential of digital music playback. Going beyond simple ones and zeros, INNUOS products elevate music enjoyment by offering true audiophile performance from your digital music library or hi-fi streaming service. Find an INNUOS dealer near you to hear the difference. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is brought to you by ZUAUDIO, waging a revolution in American hi-fi since 2000. ZU's responsive, highly efficient loudspeakers pack massive tone and shove to bring recorded music to life like never before. And ZU cables bring the same. Check out the Union 6 and Union 6 Supreme and get a first look at the upcoming Definition 6 at ZUAUDIO.com. That's ZUAUDIO.com.
And so I wanted to kick off the show with kind of just the general thoughts. How was the show for you, kind Scott?
Getting out of Illinois in the middle of February and then coming to Florida,
Yeah.
it's, let's just say, welcome. I mean, I grew up in what I call the South, at least according to Northern Illinois standards, definitely not North. But I'm apparently a total weather snowflake, so having to endure Illinois weather and winter, let's just say coming here was just phenomenal. And being able to be here with this group, seeing this show kind of evolve has been kind of a treat. We were here when the first one kicked off. We've been here for every one of these since. The team has gotten sharper, crisper, the messaging is better, the signage is better, the look and feel is better, the handling is better, and there are more and more rooms. And for whatever, I have no idea why, but the convergence of the betterness just continues to extend into the rooms, and everything sounds pretty good. It was pretty, very much worth time coming here. I can't recommend this enough to people looking for something to add to their show circuit travels.
Yeah, and I want to definitely say very, very special thanks to Bart and Deer, Sue Toscano, and all of the crew here for helping out with the podcast. They just did a fantastic job getting us a room. It's treated. I've been in sweet, sweet podcast bliss for the past 2 days, just having a great time in here. So thank you all to the show organizers for being so accommodating to us. Matthew, you've been to a lot of shows, but this is your first one reporting. How was the vibe for you? How was your experience being on the other side of the curtain for the first time?
I think this is a really well-run show. Sue and Bart have done a really good job. This is also, I think I've been to every one they've run. It does keep getting better. I had nothing bad to say about the first or second years, although this year I thought was very seamless, and they have expanded. I think they said they almost doubled the number of rooms this year compared to their original year. So I'm very impressed with what they put together. And I think the vibe is good. I think people are having a good time. It seemed very busy. I was very happy.
Crowded today.
Crowded on a Saturday. Mark, the professor, what's your initial snick?
I moved to the Pacific Northwest for a reason, and it was never to be this hot and sweaty ever again. So, no, but I really like the show. This is only my second time. I went in 2020, was the last show before COVID, so it was kind of, I had to stick in my memory for a few years. This was just, I felt like it had just picked up where it left off. It has a lot of momentum. Every year it gets better. And I think this is a place, even though your weather was a little wacky this time,
wacky in the sense it was 80.
Yeah. And
that's so wacky now that I think about
80, it. 80 is just not acceptable. Especially when it's probably like 93% humidity too. But it is nice to come to Florida in February, and when I left, everything was covered with ice, and when I got here, I had to shed a lot of clothing very quickly.
How exciting.
Yeah. In front of everybody.
Good times.
Because I just couldn't stand the heat.
And so we got here, most of us got here on Thursday, and we were treated to, I think, a pretty good jazz band. They were kind of playing in the lobby every night. A nice stand-up bass kind of vibe going, and all of our industry favorites. We got a chance to hang out on Thursday night with the Mixer, and they did a great job of honoring Marjorie Beaumont. And at the thing, they gave her a little plaque, and they said thank you. Even though Rocky Mountain is not running anymore, she still helps out with a lot of the shows and does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So it's great that she's still involved. We still get to see her. Lovely lady. I had a great chance to kind of catch up with her and all the things she's been doing. So props there. What'd you guys take away from the Mixer? Nothing. We've been to a lot of them.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. It's
they had crab cakes. I'll take that.
The food was good this year.
Food was good. You're starting to see turnout, which is kind of nice. I mean, this time last year, we were all kind of on the other side of COVID, or at least believed we were. But now it actually feels like we are on the other side. We are out of it. And people are turning out, spending money, spending time, being willing to be with each other, be generally unsafe, getting way up in personal spaces, breathing on each other, occasionally getting a little too intimate in public. But that's okay. That's okay. It was nice to see the unusual folks, the people who I haven't seen, some of the littler brands, some of the bigger brands, some of the reps, some of the this, that, and the other. I mean, this actually felt like a real full-fledged show for the first time since COVID.
Like a little bit of return to normalcy.
Yeah. Whether that was wise or not, I guess we'll see in about 5 days.
Yeah, five days, counting down the days.
And we're all going to go visit Doc down at the ER.
Hopefully not.
So, Mark, we swiftly moved from that to an outside venue. I would just want to get, before we get into all the good gear stuff, best cigar you smoked all weekend. I don't smoke myself. I wanted that to be known, but Mark does partake in the Devil's.
I have smoked so many cigars the last couple nights. And
any favorites?
With the Sinister Minister. And any favorites? So there's a new cigar from Romeo y Julieta, and it's the Reserva Real, and it's a blue label. And it just looks kind of like your garden variety Romeo and Julieta, but man, is it good. It's really good. It's something I've just discovered in the last few weeks. It did really well on Cigar Aficionado, so I choose that one.
Excellent choice. Scott, kind sir, what kind of struck you as a standout? Now, this doesn't have to be like the most expensive room. Did anything surprise you this weekend so far?
I've seen a couple things that kind of surprised me, and it kind of all over the spectrum. The first thing that I was not expecting, even though I had gotten the tip, Acora Acoustics' brand new flagship loudspeaker played at 120 decibels. That was to, what was it, Norwegian death metal? I'm just kidding. I have no idea, right? But it was so loud, and it was so clear and so effortless and so outside of the norm that I was completely taken aback. Easily a contender for Best in Show, and that was startling. Some of the other stuff that I've heard some really interesting loudspeakers from Raz from Volti. That was interesting. The little outdoor Pebble speakers, OD Stone 8 from Focal,
yes.
Their new Latora line. There's no reason why that should sound as good as it does. That was really entertaining and interesting.
I want to throw out there, I think Mark and I got to sit down on the same couch for a very brief second and enjoy something that we've talked about on the podcast extensively, which would be a new version of the LS35A from the BBC broadcast system that we've, talked about the heritage and such. And there is a really two variants or one variant in the M10. I'm not sure if it's a variant of the LS35A.
Okay, no, but it's I just talked to them in the room a little bit ago, because the first day I started listening to it, I kept calling them LS35As.
Yeah.
And they're not LS35As. It's a new one called the M10.
Oh, okay.
It's a normal deep enclosure, but it has more extended bass than the LS35A.
It does have an interesting bass kind of thing.
It's really good. It's really full. And the crazy thing is it's $22.95 a pair. They were really good.
So we got a chance to sit down together, hold hands and skip, listen to this thing.
I know, we've talked about Britfi
For so
many
much.
times. For so many LS35A, we actually listened to it together.
I know, and I was like so excited to actually get a sense of what goes on in that mid-range, because the way they had it running, there's a tonality to it that I think is nice. It's rich. I thought the bass maybe could have been a little bit better, but these guys were so tiny, right, for the size. So there was just a very fun, rich, where I can see where one might get obsessed with a British 2A with a small integrated amplifier, right?
As I have for most of my life.
Yeah. But I think one of the more interesting things that were on static display, and if you're an LS35A lover, is the Falcon Acoustics 50th anniversary, something yada yada, gold lion, gold top.
Gold badge.
It was
Gold
badge.
badge.
It was the gold badge.
Correct, gold badge. And these, I think they're 4,000. Limited run. They did 120, got allotted to us in the U.S. here. And at the time the thing started, there was 10, and then there was 9 on Thursday. And they're going fast, and I don't know if there's any left, but I want one. They have a very cool thing in terms of the finish. It looks like a gold wave. And people love these things, snatch them up, and they go, and they have a thing. It's a niche, and it's so fun to explore.
It is definitely. It's I was just told that I'm going to review either the M10 or the Gold Badge, and the Gold Badge is something that I've ever since I reviewed the LS35A, the MoFi edition from Falcon Acoustics. I've heard about the Gold Badge version, and it's basically a lot of upgraded parts inside. I've been told by fellow LS35A lovers that it's the one. It sounds amazing, and it's based a little bit on I think it's Kingsley Warren, that they had made 50 pairs a few years ago, and those got snatched up, and you weren't even able to buy those, and those were about $9,000 a pair, I think. But
whoa.
Yeah, but that was because of their collectability.
Yeah.
But the Gold Badge version is basically that version, but not with the special stamp on it or whatever it was.
Yeah. And they're gorgeous little number, I would say.
They sound completely amazing.
What did you think about the M10? So we heard the M10s.
Like I said, I kept calling them LS35As because the tonality reminded me of the LS35A. You just get a lot more bass extension, so it's a bit. The LS35A is one of those speakers where it's a near field monitor, so you slide up closer and closer and closer to it, and then the bass stops being as important because it just fills out as you get close to it. It's not filling the room with bass. But these ones feel like they were a little more, they could handle a room, a decent-sized room, and have decent low-frequency response.
Matthew, what would you say was your standout? Not your best. We're going to get to the best of. But what was your kind of standout surprise room for you that just kind of gave you some warm and fuzzies?
I was most surprised by the quote-unquote budget room from Audio Group Denmark, which was, I believe it was a Z2 Cryo, Z1 Cryo Borison speakers, and they're as yet, I think, unreleased AVIC Forte integrated amp, which seems like it's got a lot of their upstream DNA and that kind of aesthetic where this streaming integrated amp with two passive speakers really appeals to my soul. So I really like that.
So what do you think, Mark? What do you got on the docket for best, most surprising?
I would have to agree with Scott on the Acora, because I'll tell you first of all that it is the new chocolate chip trip winner, because Danny Carey was just drumming right in front of me, and I was standing next to him and hugging him and stuff, and it was just amazing. It did really well in the very large room, and it filled everything. And the imaging was amazing, and it did come around 180 degrees to your side. It was immersive. It was gorgeous, and it's definitely a step beyond. So I think that was my surprise of the show.
Scott, what do you got?
I got a couple. So and this is a little off path for most audiophiles at an audio show, but I was walking past, and then on a whim, kind of went in because there was something going on in there. I walked into the SV sound room as they were demoing dynamic range, basically, and subsonics using a part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie from, 2014?
Yeah.
It was insane. The primary thing that with the speakers, the primary speakers they were using are these new Prime wireless speakers. These are powered. There's DACs built into it. These things are completely atomic, if you will, in a way that most of the SV sound stuff is not yet. But you can see that this is where they're going to go as a company. These speakers were intimate. They were dynamic. They hooked directly into HDMI ARC circuit, so you can use them in a home theater. I have never heard bass like this in actually ever, but certainly not in a small hotel room. It was a what the hell happened to I was literally kind of shaking. Everybody in the room just kind of grabbed the seats and started white knuckling their way through this 30-second demo, and the guys from SV Sound were just going hee 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 hee. But nobody could hear anything because it was just this amazing wall of sound. So that was wildly entertaining.
Let me just say, I was laying against the wall outside, and when the bass would fire, the whole thing would vibrate to the frequency response. It was crazy, the pressurization. Yeah, fun.
So not okay, right? There's something deeply, deeply disappointing about the fact that my home theater system doesn't sound like this. So I'm a little jealous. But anyway, so that was really neat, and not something I had expected to hear at a show like this. So that was fun.
I'm going to go ahead and just throw out there the most surprising moment of the show for me was the kind of the second where you and I were walking down the hallway and there was an open door right next to one of the showrooms. So Scott, naturally we saw someone in there. We're like, oh, let's go in and see what's going on there. We started walking in, and lo and behold, it was someone's private room. And they didn't take very kindly to us just walking in while they were there. And it was a bit of a shocking moment because they slammed the door on us.
Best moment of the show is what Brian is trying to say. He almost got adopted. He's been looking for a home, and this family just said no. It was heartbreaking.
It was a tearjerker. But I think if I had to gently slide into one of my nominations for Best of Sound, I'm going to have to go with a very standard for myself, and I don't know why I keep mentioning this one, but MBL to me with United Home Audio Source. They make these reel-to-reels, and it has great source.
Great source.
Source of songs. He's got
joy. It's a joy source. It's liquid, right? So there's something about the way analog tape gets, presented. It's just so mid-range. It's so intimate, right? It's this level of clarity and smoothness, and it's probably my favorite source. It is not hi-fi in ways that are probably important to a lot of folks, but it's the most musical source that I've come across at a show, and UHA does their best work in this space that I know of, reel-to-reel tape manufacturer, and he sources these tapes, these masters or one-off masters from a variety of places, and brings them to the show, and it's stuff you cannot hear anywhere else at all, regardless of how much money you've got. It's unique to Greg Barron from UHA. So that's really fun. Hearing it on the MBLs at the late night.
Yeah.
And, MBL does this at every audio show. So like Friday and Saturday night, they'll stay up till, I don't know how these guys do this, but like 2, 3 in the morning, playing tape after tape after tape after tape, pouring bottle after bottle after bottle after. It's just insane. But it's one of the coolest experiences at any audio show, and MBL really does put on quite the display, and it was really amazing. That was a lot of fun.
And his Beatles tracks and a lot of his classic rock that he spins, it's not all classic rock, but he has some fantastic examples of a track heard like you've never heard it before. Like Beatles, I don't know why, but I get a lot of crap playback from some of the albums. His stuff is just freaking fantastic, like juicy. And he had the radio Strahler, the size I like, because he has the giant ones, just so much overkill. They have the stand mounts.
What's wrong with like a $500,000 loudspeaker, dude? I mean, seriously.
No, it's not. It looks weird. It's too big. These sound amazing. These sound amazing, and they're just the right size and shape.
All right. I think the cool thing about that, and I did this while I was doing the video reels for him, right, is that as you walk through the space, they still sound the same.
Yeah.
That's neat. Some of these speakers, like the horn speakers, right, you move your head an inch to the side or inch to the other side, and everything shifts around you, and it's kind of disorienting. You have none of that with the MBL room. You could actually drop these into a cocktail party, and everyone will get a good sound out of it. And that's actually kind of cool. You should talk to your LA friends about that.
A fun party trick for the millionaires out there.
I always go into the Jeff Joseph room, and it's
Oh, yeah.
just because I love his stuff. 'Cause every time I go in there, it's a combination of Cardis and Doshio render. He had his Pulsar graphenes in there, and I've heard them before. But this time was different because he had video going. So he had a TV screen hooked up, and he was playing NPR Tiny Desk concerts.
Oh, I love those.
So we're talking about, and there were years ago when I really hated multi-channel because what was happening on screen never matched what was coming out of the speakers.
Right.
So Jeff, with his single pair of Pulsars, combined with this video and the sound and the screen, the TV screen was even above the speakers, and yet for some reason, everything that was like the singers, it was coming directly out of the mouth. The imaging was directly where and I thought to myself, is this just a happy accident that he kind of tried out and said, "Oh, it works," or is he a genius? And I'm leaning toward genius because
he's a genius.
Well, it's just that it happened, and he kind of said, "Yeah." It was 2 speakers, so there wasn't any trick. There wasn't a center channel or anything, and yet the sounds magically came out of the performers, and I just thought that was fantastic. I'm still scratching my head about how it happened, but.
He was playing a video of a Miles Davis concert when I went through, and he had a full Miles in front of a full orchestra playing music off the page instead of just extemp like he normally does, but playing to the audience in a way that now I want to go find the concert. I want to relive it, and it was eerie. It was beautiful, and it was something I think everybody could like get into because you're there and you can see it. You don't have to make it up in your head. You're right there in front of your face. It was great.
And I do think that's one of two-channel audio's greatest tricks, is that when I was doing my surround sound days in college, I was like, this center channel thing, it's just not real. It's like it's down, it's weird, it plays, it's flat. You get two perfectly well working together drivers separated from each other, and that voice will float right there. Like,
That's exactly what happened.
yeah, and just like, and it's the trick I always wanted from surround sound that it was never able to deliver. And guess what? You can do it with two channels. So I'm glad he achieved it there. That's my favorite little trick of two channel. Well, okay, so Scott, favorite.
So I'm a huge fan of horn speakers. So there I had two good experiences, and there's a couple more I still need to go try and check out. But the one that's on the if I ever have $1 bazillion and can buy a brand new house with a gigantic room in it, right? I want to fill it with avant-garde loudspeakers. I just do. They're beautiful and they're delicate and they're dynamic as all hell, and whatever you put into them sounds great. They're also extremely revealing. Stuffed into a little hotel room, you have this sense that there's no reason why this should work. It did. It was good. I just wanted to just elbow my way right into the sweet spot, and it may have been ugly if it hadn't been vacated. I was really feeling like I needed to be there. I had another experience like that. I heard two different speakers from Volti Audio. Heard the Raz, and then heard the upgrade, the Rival, and got to hear very clearly the differences between the two speakers. And you just have these jump moments. It's just fun and exciting and dynamic. And I really think this is the thing that's turning my crank right now. Is this not just intimate, have something crawl into your lap and lick your neck. That's nice, but what I'd really like is being startled, being able to be startled by an audio presentation. And horns are really doing it for me right now.
Matthew, what do you think?
I have to second the Volti Border Patrol Triode Wire Labs room. That has consistently been one of my favorite rooms at this show for the past 3 or 4 years, and they didn't disappoint this year. I'm biased. I own the Rivals. The new Rivals, if possible, sound better. The special edition Raz sound so close, it made me second guess buying the Rivals for the space that I was allotted at my house. And I think all of the things being equal, he's making a hell of a lot of speaker for the money these days. I think best cost no object insane room would be the new Acora flagship speakers. Those are probably the most insane dynamic drivers I've ever heard. So loud, so clear, effortless.
I've obviously never heard that descriptor, and I love it. How would you describe them? So loud, just so loud.
They're also so massive too,
they're
right?
big.
So there's a couple guys wandering the show. I'm looking at them, like Fred from Lampezator North America. I'm looking at him. He can probably handle these speakers. Val from Acora could probably handle those speakers, but I can't handle those speakers. They're 430 pounds a piece. They're enormous. No, not happening. But they are beautiful.
I'm going to agree. I mean, I walked into that room and I said, and I walked in early in the show, and I said, well, this is the room to be at this show, and it was just amazing. It was just fantastic. I usually don't like the large rooms. In this case, I loved it. And I'm also going to agree with the Volti Border Patrol triode room. I heard the new Rivals, and there was a point where it was the first time at the show, the first room at the show, that made my shoulders relax and me settle in and go, yeah. And I was sitting there thinking, I said, this is the best I've ever. I hear these guys almost every show, and I feel like this was the best one yet. So,
I want to add to my favorite surprise. I got a chance to go into the. Well, I guess it's Sumiko room. I'm not sure, but the project room.
Fine Sounds.
Fine Sounds America.
Fine Sounds America. Thank you, Scott. There's a dealer room. Fine Sounds America?
Nope, they're a distributor.
God damn it. Fine Sounds America, the new split off from
They're
Right.
not a split up.
It's just
They are the owner. They are the owner of all of those brands. They own own Sumiko. They own Sonos Faber. They own Macintosh
All right.
Rotel.
and Rotel.
And Rotel.
Do they own Rotel?
No, I don't know. But
don't-
Because they distribute
featuring it, yeah.
some,
They distribute-
right, and they
they
own
distribute.
some. But they're a big player, and they have my reference at the house, the Sonos Faber Nova 3s, which was the speaker that was playing. But the surprise was I finally got to see, and Mark and I have talked about this, is the Metallica branded turntable. And you know what? The edges are kind of sharp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the metal pieces, I was like running my finger all over. I'm like, oh, look at this, whatever, plated metal on the top. And I'm like, whoop. And I'm like, dude, those, you wouldn't want to put that on, rub your tongue over it or anything.
I overheard this guy looking at that turntable and saying, but Metallica's, they're not really good musicians. So therefore, I was like, oh my God, things you
So
overhear at
therefore, this
audio
turntable
shows.
couldn't possibly sound good.
Could possible.
We decided to partner with this
cringeworthy.
band that sucks to make a sucky turntable. No. I have a friend who is a lifelong Metallica fan. He's so excited for this turntable. I was a little bit surprised by the price point. It's up there for a Metallica fan. I mean, it's like not a cheap turntable, and it's maybe not an audiophile turntable, but it looks cool. If you like the band, you got to check it out because the shape is like this ninja star, metal plated, yada yada, and it'll cut your soul.
Ride
So.
the Lightning is what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a little inside story. It's Angela and Josh Meredith, the Cardis. That's what their son, Luke, got for Christmas.
Oh,
was
wow.
the Metallica. Because I said that was very, very cool. He was into it.
My parents were never that cool.
Well,
I mean, I love my parents. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. But they were never that cool.
well, if they own their own manufacturing company in high-end audio, you might have
I
gotten
don't know
that.
that I would have gotten that, honestly.
No.
Let's unpack this, Scott. You know what? Let's just shift gears. Scott, let's unpack this.
Let's talk about your mom
Tell
and dad.
me about your mother. Did y'all get a chance to go up to the headphone stuff, like Moon Audio? That
I did.
room?
I went to Moon Audio.
I'm embarrassed to say that that room all by itself was probably its own show. I've never seen so much stuff jammed in, like usable stuff that you could have as an experience in one room. It was startling.
Everything that's like important in headphones right now is in that room.
It was amazing.
You want to hear the hottest thing? It's in that room.
So many headphones, so many amps, and so many mix and match, and it was giddy. It was like having an entire HiFi meetup somewhere, wherever those things used to happen before they got taken over, and making it a professional show. But having all of it in one room, right?
meets,
It was like it was one room. It was pretty cool.
And that's one of the awesome things about headphone audio is that you can pack it all in there. You can just move boxes around if you want. It doesn't have to take up the whole room.
I was talking to Drew and laughing. He said, "You probably put this all into a single suitcase." He's like, "No, not so much." But it was pretty impressive. That was also kind of a cool surprise.
It was like a library, but you were checking out headphones.
Yeah.
Because they were all together behind Drew, behind the counter, and then he'd say, well, "What do you want to listen to?" And then they would say a headphone, and he'd hand it to them.
That's
and
right.
That's so fun.
You'd have to bring your library card and your
Yeah,
wallet and donation of blood. Just kidding. It was really good.
What, Mark, do you kind of take away as your favorite of the show? Do you have one?
So there's a couple of rooms that are fresh in my mind because I was just in there that I loved both. One is Margulis. Margulis, every time I hear them, my initial thought is they get better every time I hear them. And I don't want to imply that the first time I heard them, they were horrible. But you know what I mean is that just every time I hear them, they're going more and more high-end, more and more beautiful. It's an engaging sound. They've been using Rido speakers for a while. And I'm pronouncing that right because I was in Denmark and said it's Rido. Just it's so punchy and lively and dynamic, but it's all tubes. And it's just crisp and powerful. And they have a new one. So I reviewed EL34 integrated a couple of years ago, which was $6,000. They now have a $12,000 integrated that uses KT88s. And it looks like it's going to be something really special. It sounded fantastic.
Today's episode is brought to you by one of the originals in high-end audio, Purist Audio Design. Purist Audio Design is proud to announce their brand new Diamond Revision. It's brand new. Re-engineered from the ground up for improved audio quality, the Diamond Revision features the clarity of diamonds, with a sound as articulate, dimensional, deep, and delicate as those stunning stones. With the Diamond Edition, experience deep bass, more microdynamics, macrodynamics, and an extended top end. For over 35 years, Purist Audio Design has connected you to the music. They passionately make high-end, handcrafted audio cables designed specifically to the needs of your system. They list their specs, such as resistance and shield quality, and you can find them at PURISTAUDIODESIGN.com. Purist Audio Design is veteran-owned and available worldwide. Today's episode is brought to you by AXPONA 2023. America's largest high-fidelity audio show takes place April 14th, 15th, and 16th at the Renaissance Schaumburg Hotel and Convention Center near Chicago, Illinois. Plan a trip to the Windy City this spring and sample over 190 listening rooms of high-end audio equipment. And explore the latest in headphone hi-fi and AXPONA's Ear Gear Expo. Tickets are available now at AXPONA.com. That's www.axpona.com.
Matthew, any other kind of thoughts and comments on your favorites?
Well, I mentioned the entry-level Boris and Avik room. I mentioned the Volti Border Patrol room. I mentioned the Acora room. There's two other dynamic driver floor standers that I just wanted to briefly mention. I really was impressed with the Triangle Art floor standers. They were being powered by, I guess they had Triangle Art front end as well. And Acoustic Energy. I thought these floor standers were quite nice. They were, I guess, 4.5 ways, 4.5 ways. They were quite good. But I thought those two floor standers were really imaged quite well. They filled the room very well with sound, and I thought their accuracy was quite good.
There was a buzz at the show about those speakers. Yeah, definitely. Because I used to love Acoustic Energy back in the day when they were doing like the AE1 and the AE2. And it seems like they've been reborn. They're interesting again.
Okay, some other really – did y'all check out all of the Avik electronics? They all got completely changed in the last year or so. I missed the note, but the fascia is all different. The electronics, the function is all different. The dynamics coming out of it, they are beautiful. They sound beautiful and match to these Borison speakers all the way up to the M1. Every one of their rooms had a very similar let's get into the music sound. And it was just that I had not been prepared for that. That was really kind of startling and beautiful. Electronic stuff in the middle, right? Not just loudspeakers. Soul Note is another brand that I didn't hear about before. Like today, I didn't know anything about these guys. Apparently, they have a long pedigree. I think they're really interesting.
That's what was powering the Acoustic Energy A5.
Oh, there you go.
520s were the Soul Note front end.
Very cool.
That's been that's Shane Tenase is working with Fidelity Imports, and he's a longtime friend, and he's been bugging me for months about Soul Note. He said, when you hear this, it's going to blow your mind. And I went in that room, too. It was exceptional. It was really good.
I wanted to just point out one other interesting thing that I saw that I honestly haven't seen before, and that was the Piega, I think was the name. Yeah. It had a coax driver, but not just any coax driver, a ribbon tweeter coax driver embedded in another ribbon Tweenex mid-range, which I thought was just kind of the most interesting new thing I've seen. That is the 711 LTD coaxial ribbon driver made in Switzerland with aluminum casing, $25K a pair, but just interesting, just different. Great sound, of course, but like a coaxial ribbon in a ribbon, magical, one of those Russian dolls almost of sorts.
One thing I did want to mention, Monacoustic, the Super Mon speaker, which also reminded me it had an aluminum enclosure. I'd never heard of them before. They were being powered by a cord front end and a render streamer. I thought they were fantastic. They were the Supermon is what they were called, and they were listed at $25K. I thought they were very nice.
So, but you were just talking about the Piega. Did you notice the turntable?
I think it was a Fender, right? No, what was it?
No, that one was, and it's exciting news for me because I've been jonesing for a EMT turntable.
Oh my God, yeah.
EMT is back with turntables, and I'm a big fan of the vintage ones. So this is the 928-2. It doesn't look anything like the old ones. It's very sleek and doesn't have all the fiddly dials. It looks like a typical audiophile turntable. But what's more important is that EMT is back making turntables. This one is $10,000, $15,000 with an EMT arm, and $18,000 as a package with an EMT cartridge. And that's almost to the point where I don't have to dream about, buying a vintage 927 for $60,000.
I would totally second that. This is one of the coolest introductions or reintroductions.
Yes.
People don't really know, Americans don't really know much about EMT. It's kind of a legendary brand, something that Europeans have been familiar with them talking about. We don't hear much about it anymore, so seeing them back on the scene is very exciting. Looking forward to seeing some of that roll into Part-Time Audiophile sometime real soon.
I think I'm going to be very, very adamant about it because this is part of a dream. EMT is my dream. I've had a lot of dream turntables, but I have actually settled on, when I win the lottery, I'm going to go, get one of those restored ones. But now I might not have to. And I that room was good, but I was listening to. I like the Piega speakers, but I was jonesing on those EMTs, and with a matching phonostage too. Mm. Yeah, and so EMT has been making cartridges. They never stopped making cartridges, and they're readily available. And I've always been a big EMT cartridge fan. And one of the models of the arm, I believe, the 997, the banana-shaped one, has still been available in the U.S. kind of consistently. But the turntable thing hasn't happened in a long time, and it's exciting. I'm excited.
So, Mark, do you have any kind of final thoughts? What's your big final kind of chunk of information you want to tell us?
Okay, so I have been trying to meet up with Philip O'Hanlon on a higher note.
Love that guy.
Oh, he is so fantastic, but because he's been representing Graham Audio, and the Graham Audio speakers, it's another BBC speaker, it's another one, but over the last few years, I've been hearing from a lot of Brit-Fi fans that these are the ones, that the Graham Audio is taking these BBC designs to new levels. And so it was the LS81 that he was showing. And it's really funny because it's kind of an updated version of the old BC1, which I used to own. And I remember paying $990 for them. And the LSA1 obviously is a lot more expensive. But he had a Bergman turntable. He had Moon River preamp and amplifier, which is really beautiful stuff, and Cardis cables. And there was a point where he played Money from Pink Floyd on vinyl, really pristine. And he did it as a tribute to his son, his 25-year-old son, who just became like a big investment banker. So he said, this is for my son, and played Money, and it was really good. This was one of the finest examples of a modern Brit-Fi kind of speaker, BBC design that you and I have been talking about many times. It's really, really nice, and it goes really deep. I mean, the old BC one didn't go this deep.
Yeah.
It's hard to listen to Graham Audio. They haven't had a solid distributor yet. Philip O'Hanlon is now handling it. Good stuff.
And great little playlists. He makes great playlists. He's a great demo.
He did. He was playing so much fun music, and he'd talk between the records and tell the story behind it. That's why we learned about his son. But he has really great taste in brands now. But Graham Audio is one that I've been hunting for a while, and
I haven't mentioned this on the podcast in years, but he did a demo, one of my first demos that blew me away. It was like the Destiny's Child song, but just the acoustic, like an a cappella track from them with like bills, and in it was just crushed. It was just the vocal line. I don't know how he got it, but it was great. I want to give a nod to Curry Leaves Indian Cuisine. We all had the chance of dining there, and I got to tell you what, it's in a gas station, like parking lot, or it's connected to a gas station. I didn't believe. I'm like, I think Scott and I were walking there, like, I think it's in the gas station. I'm like, you sure it's not in the mini mall? No, we opened the door. It's dark in there. It smells of curry, and my dish was absolutely delicious. So I just want to give a shout out.
Mine too. Excellent.
Yeah, that was definitely fun. Ukulele was really good.
There's this other place I hear. Ukulele has some great options outdoors. Just fantastic little hipster joint, you could say.
Yeah, lots of good food here in Tampa. Not that I had anticipated that. This was really kind of fun exploring.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was more just like a dry burger with mayo on it, but no. Great Indian food.
Apparently, Florida does seafood. I didn't know that. Did anybody know that?
That's so crazy.
What are the odds? It's like Lou Gehrig getting Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, Eddie, that sounds like a doctor joke if I've ever heard it.
Appropriately funny and terrible at the same time.
A little bit dark, but
Just a little dark.
Any other final thoughts that you guys like to say on the way out here?
Looking forward to coming back next year.
Yeah.
me too. Hopefully, it will be more February-ish here.
As
it
in
was
cold? Oh my God, you're the worst. No. Nice and warm.
No, give me 72 degrees.
Oh, stop your whining.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. This is fantastic. And we had like 60-degree weather today,
Yeah,
80-degree
nice
weather
today.
yesterday, and it'll be like back to 90 tomorrow, and who knows?
Appropriately schizophrenic.
No. I broke a sweat on the way to the Indian curry place last night. I'm with him on this. Too hot. Move it back a month.
Yeah.
Too hot.
Yeah, it was good times. It was good times. I'll definitely be keeping this on the schedule.
All right, guys. Everybody, thanks to the PTA crew here. And again, thanks to the great hosts, the showrunners, Bart and Deere, and everybody that helped us out and kind of took care of us while we were here. Great show. And we'll see you guys at the next show. We got Expona.
Expona.
Yeah, we'll have the Expona in April. 2 months. So we'll be on it. Good to be back in the saddle again. I think it was good fun this weekend. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Brian.
The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes PartTimeAudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA Newsletter, and Audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scott Hull at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. If you haven't already, please subscribe to The Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.